So I just posted a video last week about the Helios 44 lens, which is definitely one of my favorite lenses. But I don't really have a favorite lens, but this lens is the one that I use the most of all my lenses. And I don't really have a lot of lenses, but I have a 28, which is my widest. I have a 28 to 70, which I hardly ever use, a Sigma. I have a 50 and a 35. The 28, the 35, and the 50 are all Minolta old vintage lenses, Rokkor lenses. And I have the Helios 44-2 lens as well. And I have two anamorphic lenses, Sirui APS-C lenses, which I love. I have the 35 millimeter and the 75 millimeter. And so I wanted to do a video about this lens, using this lens solely for this video. Because the thing about this lens is that it's incredibly flexible, convenient, versatile. Like I could do anything with it. You know, like right now I could touch the lens. You know, I'm so close I can manually focus myself easily. I can get a pretty wide angle of view. You know, I mean, it's not 20 millimeters, it's not 16, but 28 for me is plenty wide. And if I need a wider angle lens, I'll just rent one, you know. But also this lens, you know, because I have a Panasonic S5, I can go into APS-C mode. It becomes a 42 millimeter as well. So that gives me a longer reach. But even at just 28 millimeters, I can get, you know, really nice close shots, far shots. I can cover pretty much anything if I'm doing like a feature film or a documentary or something like that. So it pretty much covers everything that I want. And the other thing that I love about this lens is that it's got really unique characteristics, a lot like the Helios. You know, these old Minolta lenses, these Rokkor lenses are very, very kind of, they're unique unto themselves. You know, they're unusual. I mean, the colors are brilliant. They're beautiful colors. Like sometimes I actually have to desaturate them, especially the 50 millimeter that I have, which is a f1.4. This is an f2.8, and sometimes I actually have to pull back on the colors a little bit because it's like ebullient. It's like really beautiful. But generally, you know, it looks great, especially when I shoot in vlog, which is always. I only shoot in log. And I just love this lens. It's really light. I'm going to show you some close-ups of it because I'm using it right here. It's really light. It's got a normal aperture ring, unlike the Helios. It's really easy to focus. The focus ring is really good. You know, I use the same type of adapter that I used on the Helios lens, which is a Photesi, which cost me $11, I think, on Amazon. And it's just, you know, it's not connected to the electronics of the camera. It's just a piece of hardware that allows you to connect to the L mount. So I just wanted to do a video using only this lens. All the B-roll that you'll see, the talking head stuff, everything is using this Minolta 28 millimeter f2.8. It's called a Telesor lens. Just a little background, when my father passed away a long time ago, like in 1988, I found a camera bag that he had. My father was a photographer in the Army. And I found his camera, which I've never used. It's a film camera, obviously, a Minolta. But he had two lenses, this and the 50 millimeter. And so I adapted them to my, at the time I had a Sony a6400, so I adapted them to that camera. And I used them in APS-C mode all the time. But now I could use them full frame on this camera, the Panasonic S5. So it's kind of cool that I'm using my father's lenses. Also, as an aside, and I keep saying this in every video because I'm hoping I can maybe get some help, but I found 2 rolls of film also. And it turns out that nobody can develop this film. It's a process called ECN2. And I guess it was movie film that was repurposed for photography in the 60s. And it's very unusual. And literally nobody in the United States does it. I found somebody in Canada, but they said it would take like a year to get it back to me because they wait until they have enough to, you know, rent some stuff that they need for it or whatever. I don't know, maybe to get the chemicals. So if anybody has a lead on how to get ECN2 film processed, I would really appreciate that because I'm dying to know what's on my father's, these 2 rolls of film. Like, that's something I'd really like to know. So anyway, I'm out here up in upstate New York. That's the Mid-Hudson Bridge back there. It's beautiful. This is my absolute favorite kind of weather to shoot in. It's moody and, you know, it's like a winter day, and it's winter, and there's ice all over the place. Hasn't snowed much this year, but I digress. So let's get to the video, because I'm going to use this Minolta 28mm to talk about how everybody seems to be quitting YouTube. And I realized that resonates with me because I kind of quit YouTube a long time ago, and I don't want to repeat myself, so I'm just going to get to the video. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this. Hope you enjoy the lens. I'll come back at the end real quick just to kind of sum all this up. But let's get to the main part of the video. And Minolta 28mm Telesor f2.8 adapted to a Panasonic S5 L mount, the original S5, and here we go. All right, I figured I'd give you a different perspective for this Minolta 28mm at night, low light shooting with Panasonic S5. I'm using ISO 4000 right now. I get some cool little flares behind me. So anyway, what I want to just add to this video was that, a lot of people are quitting YouTube, Matty Hapoya, Tom Scott, people, some major YouTubers. And when I thought about it at first, I was like, man, they're quitting just because they're not making as much money. But then when I really thought about it, I was like, you know what? I do believe that they're burned out, like they say, because this is an incredibly hard thing to do. Like, you got to dedicate your whole life to this. This is like a 24/7, 365, dedicate your life. Your family's going to sacrifice. Everything's going to sacrifice. It's a full-time job to make it work. It's incredibly stressful. I saw Manny Ortiz post a video about how it affected his mental health, just checking the statistics all the time and stuff like that. So, you know what? I was going to post a long video about how all these YouTubers were kind of full of shit, but when I thought about it, I was like, I'm always complaining that I'm not getting enough views, I'm not getting enough subscribers and stuff like that. But the fact is, I'm not dedicating myself and spending the kind of time that's really necessary and required to get that kind of success on YouTube, because I'm doing other things. I'm making movies and writing plays, and that's my main thing in my life. So at some point, hopefully this will pick up and it'll do better for me, and then maybe I'll get to the point where I really can make some decent money doing this. But in the meantime, I'm just going to do the best I can. I'm going to try to contribute as best I can. Hopefully people will get something from my channel, something. And much respect to people like Matty Hapoya, who I learned so much from. I also noticed Danny Gewurz is not posting as often, and a lot of people that I really respect and admire are not here as much because they're doing other things, because you literally cannot do both. Like, you can't give all of yourself to everything, So I just wanted to add that, like, I know a lot of people are quitting YouTube. I think that it's something to pay attention to, because it can definitely burn you out. if you're not careful. So yeah, so let's get back to talking about this lens. And it's freezing right now, so I'm going to go back inside and finish this with the rest of the video. So, all right, cool perspective, right? For a 28mm like this, not so bad, right? All right. So this lens to me is incredibly flexible and convenient. I could do anything with it. It's 28mm, you know, so 28 is pretty wide. So I can use it as a wide-angle lens, but also it's not too wide, and I can get close to it. It doesn't get distorted, you know, like a 20mm does or a 16mm. You know, I don't get that weird kind of look. So I can get close to it. It's got a really decent minimum focusing distance, which is probably around a foot, you know, maybe a little less. It's got a 49mm filter thread. So I have other lenses that have that same thread. Actually, the Helios has a 49mm filter thread. Excuse me. That's convenient. It's light, you know, and also, you know, a lot of people think manually focusing is so much more difficult than if you have a great autofocus lens, and that's not true at all, especially if you're doing like street photography, for example, which I don't do, but filmmaking, you know. Here's how it works, you know, like, and probably most people are familiar with this, but I'm just going to say it for those who are not. You know, zone focusing, like using your lens, like learning how to really use it, is really invaluable because, and I'm going to show you close-ups of this, but you can take your lens and set the aperture to say f8, okay? Because let's face it, you don't need to shoot at f2.8 all the time. You don't even need to shoot at f4. Like if you're doing street photography or if you're making a film or something like that, chances are you want to include what's going on around your subject. What's the environment? Where are they? What's going on? Why are they there? Who else is there? You know, what's going to happen? You know, you can't just always have something focused on a person's face, you know, or only an animal or something like that. Like, you want to include stuff. So set it to f8 or f11 or something like that. So you set your camera, you know, you set your aperture to whatever you want to set it to. And then you take your infinity focus and you set that to the number below, the same number that you set your aperture to. And then you look on the other side, and I'm hopefully showing you this right now in a close-up, and you look at that number, let's say f8, and so you look for the 8, and then you can see the amount of feet where everything will be sharp from that amount of feet forward, you know, past that point. So in other words, if I'm shooting an f8 on this lens, I'm not sure what it is, and you know, I don't have the lens in my hand because I'm shooting on it right now, but I'm thinking probably anything past like 10 or 12 feet, everything's going to be in focus. So think about that. You can set your aperture, you could set your focus, infinity focus, to that number. You can see how many feet you have to play with, and then you could just go out and shoot. You don't have to worry about anything. Just make sure your exposure is correct. Using an ND filter is the way to go with that. You know, work on your framing, and you're good to go. And it's incredibly freeing. And you know, like filmmaking is really great for that too. So that's an excellent way to use a manual lens. So this lens is just, you know, it's incredibly flexible for me. I could do anything with it. I could do an entire movie because I can get close, intimate shots with it. I can get wide shots with it. I can get kind of middle distance kind of shots with it. Like I said, it's really light. You can get these lenses so cheap. You can get these lenses on eBay for 50 bucks, 75 bucks. Like, it's worth trying. Like, you know, when you try, say, a Sigma 28-70 f2.8, and somebody tells you it's a great price, like 750 bucks, yo, that's 750 bucks. You could try this lens for 50 bucks. You could get a Minolta 50mm Rokkor for 50, 75, maybe, you know, somewhere between 50 and 200, depending upon how mint it is, how maybe somebody took it apart and fixed everything and made everything perfect. I mean, when you buy something used, obviously, especially if it's from the 60s or the 50s or the 70s or whatever, it's going to have nicks and it's going to have its life on it. You know what I mean? It's like wrinkles on somebody's face. A lens is going to have its stuff about it too. But it's worth trying. You know, the other thing about this lens, it's really sharp. You know, I think I said that already. Oh well, that was a bad writer thing. So anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about. Like, I would highly recommend a lens like this. You know, the Lumix S5 is an incredible camera. I love it, and it has, you know, decent autofocus, but not great. I only have one autofocus lens. I do have the Sigma 28-70, and I use it every so often when I feel like I'm doing maybe a YouTube video or something like that. And it's been very reliable for me with autofocus. But I also like it because I can get kind of a vintage look out of it with, you know, like a Pro Mist filter, or, you know, I use an ND filter all the time. But mainly I'm shooting with, I have a Minolta, this Minolta 28, I have a 35mm Rokkor and a 50mm Rokkor. I have the Helios 44-2, which is a 58mm lens. And I have two anamorphic lenses. I have the Sirui APS-C 35mm f1.8 and the Sirui 75mm f1.8, both anamorphic, both APS-C, both incredible lenses, but they're heavier. You got to be more, you know, intentional with what you're doing. With this lens, I could just go out and have fun. It's a great photography lens. It's amazing. And the other advantage, if you're using a camera like the Panasonic S5 or the S1H or something like that, you can go into APS-C mode. And then this lens becomes a 42mm, which is even, you know, even better. You got a 28 and a 42. That's pretty cool. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to finish this video now. I quit YouTube a long time ago, but I'm still trying my best. I still want to get as many subscribers as possible, so please subscribe. I would love to grow this channel, but I'm also never going to complain about it or sweat about it or whatever, because I know that there are other YouTubers who are giving their entire life, like they're approaching YouTube the way I'm approaching making a film. They're approaching YouTube the way I'm approaching writing a play and then memorizing it, because I'm a solo theater artist, like memorizing 2.5 hours of work and then getting on stage and performing it. Like, I have to dedicate my whole life to that. You know, I know that YouTubers are doing that, and kudos to that. All the respect to you. You guys are incredible, and I get the benefit from that because I pretty much learned how to be a filmmaker from you. So thank you for that. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. I appreciate it. I'm going to run out of here now. Hopefully you enjoyed all the B-roll I showed you with this lens. As you can see, I'm kind of obsessed with fences and things like that, and I love using foreground. And please subscribe. Please hit the like button if you like this video, and I'll see you again soon. So stay well. In the meantime, my birthday's coming up soon. Oh, does anybody know how to get ECN2 film developed? Like, I'm having a serious problem with that. I said it at the beginning of the video. I'm saying it at the end. ECN2, it was movie film repurposed for photography film. Nobody does it. I would really appreciate it. Give me some information. Peace. I'm out. That's it. All right.